Have you ever stopped to think that the actress you admire, follow in every drama, and get excited about every role might be hiding something no one ever imagined? Well, behind the spotlight and the applause, there is always a real life, made of choices, fears, and moments that don't appear on camera. And in the case of Chae So-bim, one of the most talked about actresses of recent years, this reality is even more surprising. For a long time, she built a solid, brilliant career, landing roles that put her in the public's hearts. But there was something she hid very carefully, a secret that seemed untouchable, so carefully guarded that not even the most attentive fans, those who analyze every detail of interviews and appearances, managed to notice. The most intriguing thing is that this secret wasn't just an ordinary detail. It was something capable of completely changing the way everyone viewed your career. Imagine looking back at all the memorable moments and suddenly realizing there was a silent truth behind every gesture, every smile, every professional choice. This secret was your protection, but also your burden. And perhaps that's exactly what makes Chae So-bim's story so fascinating. The duality between the successful actress who seemed to have everything under control and the woman who, behind the scenes, had to deal with something the public never suspected. A hidden detail that shaped her career, her attitudes, and even the way she related to those around her. Now finally, this secret has come to light, and once you know what it is, you won't be able to look at her the same way again. The revelation isn't just about her personal life, but also about the strength to keep smiling, even when the truth insists on weighing you down. So, before diving into this story, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and leave your like, because what you're about to discover today will capture your attention from beginning to end. At the beginning of his career, Chae So-bim, she wasn't the well-known actress who enchants audiences today. She was just a young dreamer, eager to showcase her talent in a competitive and unforgiving world. Her first steps were marked by long lines at auditions, hours of waiting in cold hallways, and suspicious looks from directors who seemed to disbelieve in her potential. She often returned home weighed down by frustration, but also with the certainty that she had to keep trying. The curious thing is that even in the face of so many difficulties, Chae So-bim possessed a seemingly unshakable determination. From the outside, she saw only a persistent girl, but inside her lay something deeper, something she preferred to keep silent. This hidden detail was both her weakness and her greatest strength. It was as if this secret was the fuel that made her get up every day and face another battle. Imagine how many times she must have thought about giving up, abandoning her dreams to pursue a simpler path. But instead, each rejection seemed to fuel her desire to prove herself even more. And little by little, doors began to open, albeit tentatively. Her first roles weren't major breakthroughs, but each appearance carried a different energy, almost as if her hidden truth gave her performances more intensity. And it's at this point that Chae So-bim's story begins to take on an even more intriguing tone. What truly drove this young actress to not give up, even when all seemed lost? Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and get ready, because the next details will surprise you. As the first steps of the career of Chae So-bim were taking shape, so too was the need to protect something that was part of her life, but which she didn't want to share with the world. While the public saw only the smiling, dedicated, and energetic actress on stage and screen, there was a layer of silence that accompanied each of her achievements. This silence was, in fact, the mark of a secret she carried. Like a shadow, always present, always close, yet carefully hidden. Those around her noticed small details. In interviews, when more personal questions arose, her gaze would subtly shift. Sometimes she'd smile before answering, as if buying herself a few seconds to choose the right words. Other times, she'd quickly change the subject, diverting attention to her work, her co-stars, or upcoming projects. Those who watched casually saw only a discreet actress, but those who paid closer attention realized there was something she wasn't revealing. This behavior was repeated behind the scenes. Many of her co-stars commented on how Chae So-bim was always kind, thoughtful, and dedicated, but she rarely spoke about herself. She preferred to listen to others' stories, laugh at their experiences, and keep herself safe, where her own memories didn't need to be exposed. It was a silent but effective strategy to protect what she wasn't yet ready to share. Over time, this secret began to bleed into her public image. Without her realizing it, it became part of how the public perceived her, a talented actress, but shrouded in a certain air of mystery. It was as if everyone could sense there was something behind that glow, but no one could define it. This mystery heightened curiosity, strengthened interest in her life, and at the same time, kept her in a place where she remained admired, yet protected. The secret, however, wasn't just something she hid from the world. It also shaped her. It influenced how she approached her roles, how she conveyed emotion in scenes, and how she connected with the audience. Each performance carried an invisible weight, a trace of truth that no one could identify, but which made her performance even more intense. What seemed merely a natural talent was, in reality, the fruit of a life marked by something that, until then, had remained hidden. This process of hiding and, at the same time, leaving involuntary traces created a network of almost imperceptible signs. Small gestures, pauses in interviews, averted glances, interrupted answers. All of this formed a puzzle that, for years, no one could piece together. It was as if she left clues along the way, but always taking care that none of them would be enough to reveal the whole truth. And so, as her career grew, so did the distance between the actress the public knew and the woman she existed off camera. The secret became not just part of her story, but part of her identity. It was present in everything, in the moments of glory, the hardships, and even in the silences that said more than words could explain. As the years passed, the silence that Chae So-bim cultivated began to take on increasing weight. At first, it seemed like just a choice, to protect a part of her own life, to maintain a healthy distance between the actress and the woman behind the camera. But as her fame grew, this silence stopped being just a decision and became a constant burden. It was like carrying an invisible bag, always with her, always present, even in her most brilliant moments. In interviews, this burden became noticeable. When journalists pressed on about personal matters, she would take a deep breath, fix her hair, smile delicately, and deflect with short answers. There was no rudeness, just a polite firmness that made it clear that the line would not be crossed. To those unaware, it simply appeared to be shyness or discretion, but to the more attentive, every pause and every lost glance betrayed something deeper behind this behavior. Behind the scenes, the situation wasn't much different. While colleagues shared childhood stories, family memories, or personal struggles, Chae So-bim simply listened, smiled, and supported. She was good at making others feel comfortable, but she rarely put herself at the center of the conversation. This posture created an almost enigmatic image of an actress who was always present, yet at the same time shrouded in an invisible barrier. It was as if there were a wall between her and the world, carefully erected to keep out questions that might expose what she didn't want to show. This silence, however, wasn't limited to unspoken words. It was reflected in her demeanor before the audience, and even in her acting. Many critics noted a special intensity in her dramatic roles, a quiet truth in her expressions, as if every tear or look carried real weight. What few knew is that this strength came precisely from what she hid, the pain. That transformed into art, the secret that became fuel for acting. But it wasn't easy living like this. At times, Chae So-bim seemed to struggle to carry this burden. In public appearances, there were days when her smile seemed less spontaneous, as if it were merely a necessary mask. And at other times, she would flash distant glances, quickly disappearing before anyone could notice. These moments were small reflections of an internal struggle that, though silent, was always present. Over time, silence ceased to be merely a defense and became almost suffocating. It was like living torn between two worlds, that of the actress who needed to appear confident and strong, and that of the woman harboring a secret that weighed increasingly heavily. This duality shaped not only her career, but also the way people perceived her. To the public, she was talented, elegant, and mysterious. To herself, she was someone who, every day, had to balance her public image and private life without letting one blur too much with the other. And so, the weight of silence became an inseparable part of her journey. It didn't stop her from shining, but it made each achievement taste different, always accompanied by the reminder that something still remained hidden. The time has come when the secret of Chae So-bim could no longer be hidden. It wasn't a dramatic revelation on camera or a planned announcement, but something that emerged almost naturally, as if time had decided it was time to let the truth out. Little by little, small details began to fall into place, and what for years seemed like a distant mystery became a reality impossible to ignore. The curious thing is that this revelation wasn't accompanied by scandal, as many might have imagined. She didn't lose fans, wasn't judged cruelly by the media, nor did she see her career collapse. On the contrary, when the truth finally came to light, the public embraced her with even more affection and respect. It was as if everyone, upon learning about this hidden side of her life, began to understand her in a more human and intimate way. What was previously seen as a mystery became an essential part of her story, explaining choices, silences, and even her intensity as an actress. The revelation showed that Chae So-bim always carried something within her that shaped her personality. Each role she played seemed to gain more depth because there was a truth within her that couldn't be seen, but could be felt. The intense looks, the dramatic pauses, and the emotions she conveyed on stage were not only the result of talent, but also a reflection of a life that knew all too well the weight of keeping something bottled up inside. To her colleagues, the explanation finally made sense. That more reserved demeanor, the tendency to avoid talking about herself, and the delicacy in changing the subject when something more personal was asked were not signs of coldness or distance, but of protection. She knew her secret could be misinterpreted, and so she kept quiet. The silence, which for so long seemed like a barrier, proved to be a shield. The public, in turn, not only accepted this truth, but also began to admire her in a new way. Discovering that someone so admired also faced silent battles made her story even more inspiring. She went from being just an actress with remarkable roles to a symbol of resilience, someone who managed to build a brilliant career without letting her personal struggles define her. This revelation, in the end, was not a fall, but a rebirth. Chae So-bim came to be seen not only as an artist of rare talent, but as a strong woman who knew how to carry her silence and transform it into art. The secret that once seemed like a prison ended up becoming part of her liberation, because when it came to light, it showed that even the biggest stars are made of humanity, of frailties, and of the courage to move forward. The trajectory of Chae So-bim shows us how an artist's life can be much more complex than what we see on camera. For years, she built a solid career, playing remarkable roles, enchanting audiences, and winning fans around the world. But at the same time, she silently carried a secret that, at times, seemed like an unbearable weight. This secret followed her from the beginning, shaped her way of acting, influenced her relationships with colleagues, and, unexpectedly, even strengthened her art. When the truth finally came out, there was no rejection, no alienation. The contrary, the revelation only brought the public closer to Chae So-bim. If before she was seen as a distant star, now she was perceived as a real woman who faced invisible struggles and yet continued to fight for her dreams. This new dimension to her story brought humanity to her image, showing that behind the admirably talented actress lies a person who, like anyone, needed to find the strength to move forward. What makes this journey even more inspiring is the way she transformed pain into power. Every tear on stage, every intense look, every dramatic silence took on new meaning after the revelation. These weren't just acting devices, but reflections of a life that knew the weight of silence and the courage required to maintain it for so long. This made her art even more authentic, touching hearts in a unique way. Today, Chae So-bim's image is marked not only by her talent, but also by her courage to face her own limits. The secret that was once a reason for silence has become part of her identity, reminding the public that the biggest stars are human too. They also make mistakes. They also suffer. and they also need to reinvent themselves. This truth only increases the respect and admiration she has earned throughout her career. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think artists have the right to keep part of their lives to themselves? Or do you think fans deserve to know everything? Leave your opinion in the comments, because this debate is as important as the story itself. And don't forget, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss any of the upcoming stories that reveal the behind-the-scenes stories, the secrets, and the humanity behind the great names we admire so much.